All right. Hello and welcome. This is a how to play on Finding Anastasia for 1 to 8 players. This particular how to play is for the 4 to 8 player version. And so what you have here is a game board set up in the middle that has really 3 different categories. You have trinkets, locations, and story. These represent the clues that are going to be shown throughout the game. Each player starts out with a hand of clues as well as their roll card. Roll card will indicate, let me flip one over here. Flip over a different one. Okay, so Rasputin's Agent's a great one. So at the top, it tells you basically what happens when you're revealed, a reveal effect. So if your roll is revealed, immediately reveal another player's roll. That player is poisoned, cannot win the game. And then your bottom win condition, so you win if Anastasia does not win. So ideally, someone would mistake you as Anastasia, choose to reveal your roll card, you'd be revealed, and then you would basically get one shot to say, okay, I've narrowed it down to, I believe this is Anastasia, I'm going to select them. They will not win the game, and therefore I will win the game, so to speak. So really, you kind of see how some of these roles really start to interlay with each other. Meanwhile, you have the Empress. So at the top, she starts the game. She's the Empress. I mean, it's her party, right? She also starts out with a little bit more wealth than everyone else. She starts out with 4 gems from the supply, takes the first turn. She wins if she is able to reveal Anastasia. You also have, of course, Anastasia. So if your role is revealed, the game ends. You cannot reveal your own role, and she wins if she's revealed by anyone except Rasputin's agent. Ultimately, what she's trying to do is she's trying to be discovered as Anastasia. Let me go through a couple more here. Okay, the imposter's another great one. So if your role is revealed, the game ends. You cannot reveal your own role. You win if your role is revealed by anyone except Rasputin's agent. In other words, as the imposter, your role is very similar to Anastasia's. You're trying to be mistaken as Anastasia. That's your whole goal in life. However, Anastasia starts out with 3 real clues. The imposter only starts out with 1 clue, story, location, or trinket, and then 2 no clues. So she's kind of making it up as she goes along. Anastasia has the specific answer that actually is the clues to being Anastasia. Everyone is asking questions at the table, trying to deduce who is and isn't Anastasia, based upon everything from body language, how they answer, as well as collisions. So sometimes you'll see 2 people answer with the exact same answer. That's when some red flags start to go off, right? One of those characters, one of those players is lying, basically, to try and gain wealth usually, or trying to achieve their end game victory condition. Let's go ahead and deal it out, and we'll start playing through it, and I'll kind of explain the game a little bit more as we play. All right, so the cards have been dealt. What you can see down here is player 1 here is the family friend. She has the hidden story. So her story is she hid. Whenever she gets asked about what her story is, she has to say that she hid because she has that card in her hand. However, if she gets asked about location, where have you been spending time after you escaped Russia, Anastasia, the family friend here would say, oh, well, she would look at the board and try and figure out what's most advantageous to her, because you actually start out by seeding the game with some random gems. And so there may be some benefit to claiming you've started, or, these are one of the clue answers that you have. So the first person to actually start is the Empress, so let's go ahead and find who that is. How do I do that? Let's see. Okay, so here we are. So this is the Empress's turn. Let's go ahead and rotate this card. Bothers me that that's sideways. Okay. So the Empress has the same deal, right? She knows who she is, and so does everyone else. She reveals that outright. Let's go ahead and get this, give us a little bit more table room. Okay. So the Empress has her roll out right here. Everyone knows who she is. She gets 4 gems from the supply in order to start the game. So let's go ahead and grab those 4 gems. Also, everyone starts out with 1 gem. So immediately, the Empress has 5 gems to start the game. Which is important because you'll actually see down here that we have a menu of options from which she can take her turn. So the first action is always ask a question. Then it's followed up by another action. A lot of actions will give you gems. Some of them will take gems. So immediately you can see that the Empress can just make a wild guess and reveal another player's roll card on turn 1. The only problem with that is, as we saw, if you accidentally choose Rasputin, Rasputin has a bit of an advantage on you because they know they are Rasputin, therefore not Anastasia. They also know the Empress is not Anastasia, and so they already have an advantage. And so it's best if you don't call that out to yourself, right? If you don't give Rasputin that ability. Also, the imposter will immediately end the game. So the Empress really is put in a spot almost immediately where she has to try and figure out like what she can and can't do by listening to the other players. So very first thing you have to do is ask a question. So choose another player and then have them basically give you an answer on something. So we're going to go ahead and say, oh, I don't know. Player 2 here, green. What is your trinket, right? And so let's go ahead and play this maybe face up so we can kind of see this. Oh, that's interesting. I'm kind of playing it along here. Usually you'd play with, other players that would just be able to give you the answer. So, okay. Give me your trinket, player 2. And player 2 doesn't have a trinket, right? So they're just going to outright lie to start out. And so they're going to say, what trinket do I have? I have the purse, right? Because they're trying to gain gems. And so, since they claimed they had the purse, a gem was on the purse. And so she was able to put her token on the purse and then take the gem that's there. So now she has 2 gems. So then the turn reverts back to the Empress to take her second action. So then she gets to choose one of the following. Choose another player, gain 1 gem. They must show you one of their clues. Exchange 1 clue with another player. They must try to match the category, ask any additional questions. So what the Empress can do is she asked for a trinket. She has the Fabergé egg. And so what she can do is she can say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and take 1 gem because I am doing the exchange 1 clue with another player. You gain 1 gem for that. It's the green plus 1. And then she is going to take her Fabergé egg, place it down, and say, green, go ahead and trade with me. I want to see your trinket. Now, since the rules say that they must try to match the category, player 2 is put in a bind automatically, right? They have to try and match the category if they can. They claimed they had the purse. They don't have a trinket, right? We saw what they had. And so they really have no clue, or ran away. And so what they're going to do is they're going to go ahead and take this clue. Maybe they can use this to fool someone else. They're actually going to give the no clue to the Empress. Empress takes this in their hand, and now they have 3 no clues. Not a big deal, but that does tell the Empress that player 2 was a fibber, right? Outright liar on that front. And so that is the Empress's turn completed. So now we go on to the next player, who happens to be player 2. Now if you see here, let's go ahead and rotate this a couple times. You can see that the next player, green player, the one Empress was talking to, actually was Rasputin's agent. Rasputin's agent now has ran away, Fabergé egg, and no clue. So, same deal, right? They get to ask a question, then choose one of the following. They're going to go ahead and pick on player 3. They're going to say, player 3, tell me, oh, I forgot to do this. So when an answer is provided, you actually seed the table with more gems. So basically, vertically, you add gems to those areas. So you add 2 gems basically every time a question's asked. So you can see here, purse was placed, bop, put those there. It increases the interest in players to fib in those areas. So again, player 2 is going to ask player 3 and say, player 3, tell me, what story? How did you escape Russia? And so player 3 is going to look through their cards. I don't want to pass yet, so we'll just say, here you go. Negotiated. You don't reveal this usually. I'm just doing that so I can see a little bit better. So you're going to say negotiated. And so they drop this here. Now this is interesting because you can see that there are no gems there. That means it's probably interesting that player 3 said that, because they could have gained a gem if they chose, 3 of the 5 spots, but they chose not to. So that probably means their hands were bound. Probably means they actually have negotiated. So then Rasputin looks at the options here and says, let's see. Their goal is really to try and get, trying to reveal themselves to, try and get themselves revealed to eliminate Anastasia. That's really their ultimate goal. And so they're trying to figure out how to get gems, 7 gems to reveal themselves, or 5 if someone mistakes them, 5 to reveal another player's role. So, right, so we need to see that. So Rasputin's agent says, player 3, what do they want to do? Ask an additional question. Sure, let's do that. Player 3, so she's gonna get 1 gem. Tell me, what's your trinket, right? And so player 3 looks at their trinkets. They don't have any because there's a no clue. And so player 3 is gonna say, my trinket is the tiara. That's what I escaped with. And so they take a gem. You reseed this board, put a gem there, put a gem there. Now that's interesting because they could have chosen any of the other spots, yet they happen to choose that one where a gem was. So maybe it gives more, more credence to the fact that they are, not really Anastasia. All right, so now we hop over here to this player that we were just playing as, or just asked, player 3, who is the gossip. So if your role is revealed, choose a player and look at their hand of clues. And when revealed, choose whether you win if Anastasia wins or loses, and announce this allegiance. So if you think Anastasia is really close to being found by being found and not losing due to Rasputin or the imposter, you may choose to align with Anastasia and try and help other players out. By the mere fact that you were able to look at a player's hand of cards, you can do that, right? So you could say, oh, I know that that's Anastasia. I have a pretty good idea that is not Anastasia, and really, try and sway the table in that way, just talking about it, right? Gossiping, if you will. All right, so the gossip starts out by asking a question. So we know who the Empress is. We're not really sure who player 2 is. Obviously, you and I know that that's Rasputin's agent. But we have 2 other players over here that no one knows anything about. And so the gossip's going to say, tell me, player 5, pink player 5, what is your trinket? And so player 5... So now you and I know. Player 5 is going to say it's earrings, right? Because that's what Anastasia has. And so Anastasia is going to say, oh, well, I escaped with some earrings. And so she puts her dress there, her token there, and seeds the board accordingly. So she gained no gems out of that, but it was a little bit of a trick question because the gossip asked a category in which there was no gems. So there was no way to actually get any information from that. Other than to just try and, put more information out on the board. The gossip then asks, follows up with a secondary action where she's going to draw a clue. What's important here about the clue economy is it may signal that she herself is not Anastasia, but that might be okay, right? Really, she can start to see who is and isn't lying. So if anyone ever says they negotiated, outside of her, she could say, well, no, I negotiated. And then also smuggled, right? If someone ever says smuggled, then they're lying because there's only one of each card in the deck. Okay, so that was the second action. So now we go over here to 5th player. So we have Anastasia. We're going to go ahead and rotate left. Okay. All right, so she has all orange clues, which is very unique. That usually doesn't happen that way. And so Anastasia now gets to ask a question. She herself knows that she is Anastasia, but she's trying to get the Empress to be aware of that. And so Anastasia's going to say, oh, I don't know. White hasn't talked much, so player 1, tell me, what story do you have? How did you escape Russia? And so player 1's going to look at their cards and say, they hid. Again, that's not revealed publicly, but they say they hid. And so they took a gem. We're going to seed the board with that. So that didn't really give too much information to anyone. But it was a question all the same. So now Anastasia gets to choose an action. So Anastasia can do a lot of very interesting things on her turn because she's trying to get the Empress to be aware of who she is. And so what she could do is she could start asking questions of the Empress, which is really, overt, right? Lots of players could figure out what she's doing. Or she could go ahead and exchange one clue with the Empress, right? Or, or you could try and give gems to the Empress somehow. Now, the Empress has a bunch of wealth right now anyway, so you probably don't want to mess with that. Instead, what's going to happen is Anastasia's going to say, I've shown that I have the earrings, right? I said that I had the earrings. Now if I could show her that I have the earrings. So she's going to take this, and she's going to take it over here to the Empress and say, here you go. I'm going to exchange a card with you. You go ahead and exchange one back with me. Now, if you remember, the Empress actually had to give up all of her cards. So she's going to give a no clue back in exchange, which is going to kind of mess up some of the logics later. So that's kind of important, right? Because as time goes on, information starts to change hands, and you kind of have to remember who is traded with who. So here, the Empress now sees, okay, that's interesting. You said that you had the earrings. You just gave me the earrings, which means I now know that you were telling the truth as an overt action, basically. So now she gets a gem for that because you get one gem when you exchange one clue with another player. And now it goes on to the next player. So it goes to player 1. So player 1 is now going to say, okay, all right, so I am the family friend. If my role is revealed, the Empress gains 1 clue, and I gain 4 gems from the supply. And then you win if you or the Empress reveal Anastasia. So the family friend is probably in a good spot right now. You can almost see how 2 different teams have started to form. You have Rasputin's agent over here, which may or may not be alone. You have the Empress looking for Anastasia. You have Anastasia trying to convince the Empress to select her, which, again, that could be the imposter pretending to do that. You have family friend trying to either find Anastasia or get the Empress to find Anastasia. And then you also have the gossip, which can go either way. If the gossip believes that Rasputin's agent is closer and the Empress is doing poorly, she might choose to help Rasputin's agent. She might also choose to help the Empress, depending upon the player, right? Okay. Now we have family friend here. Family friend is saying, all right, how do I help the Empress find Anastasia? That's very interesting. So I have to ask a question. So I saw that the pink player traded a card with the Empress. That's kind of unusual unless they're trying to signal something. I'm going to go ahead and say player 5. What location are you from? You know, I'm seeing family friend is seeing how meaty it is out here. If she says Tokyo, that's probably a really good clue that player 5 here is in fact Anastasia, because why would you do that with all those gems out there? If, however, she says something else, it might be middle of the road. As we know, she has Paris, France. So she puts this here. She says, oh, I'm from Paris, France. That doesn't necessarily tell us one thing or another other than, she benefited from it, basically. All right. So then her second action is, well, that's interesting. That didn't really tell me too much. I could either go back to number 1 to try and get clarity on that, or I could diversify a little bit. And she goes, well, in for a penny, in for a pound. I really want the Empress to know whether this is or isn't Anastasia, because I benefit from that. I can win if the Empress wins. So she's going to ask another question. So we gain a gem for asking another question, and we're going to say, player 5, what's your story? How did you escape Russia? And so what you'll see here is she gains 2 gems because of that, which is really interesting. So we put another gem here. We put a gem here. Now that was the richest place she could go. That's where she's going to get the most wealth. So really doubt is starting to build on player 5, because she really did well on that answer. And she has enough gems to reveal someone, so that might have been her ploy all along. Either way, player 1's turn is over. We now go back to the Empress. The Empress is very confused at this point, because she was able to gain the earrings from player 5, which told her something, but player 5 made out like a bandit. Look at all those gems there. So now the Empress has some work to do. She has one question, and then she can reveal another player's role with all of these gems. So she already found out that the green player is a liar, liar, pants on fire. Purple player could be either. Hard to say. Player 1 is acting suspicious because she went all in on player 5. It could be a sign that she was also trying to deduce if player 5 was Anastasia because of that action. You know, it could be Rasputin's agent as player 1 because of that, you know, that doubling down. There's really a lot of body language that you're looking at here to try and figure out, you know, what they are or what they aren't, right? In this game, you can really play it up and say, I don't know. That's a lot of questions you're asking there. And so really, I think the Empress would go after someone she doesn't know. And so she's going to come over here to player 3 and say, player 3, where have you been spending time? Where have you been living ever since, you know, you escaped? And I myself don't actually remember. I think she doesn't have a location, right? Yeah, she's got those. And so she can completely lie here. And that's probably what she'll do. She's going to say, oh, well, I've been spending a bit of time in London, just to make it look interesting, right? She might lie on a place like that. Well, I've been spending time in London. And so she still gains 2 gems. However, it kind of throws her off the scent, because if it was Agra, India, you know, that would tell her a lot more. Empress really isn't sure at this time. She has all of these gems. Maybe if she draws another clue, that will give her enough information to deduce if someone's lying. So she has Agra, India now, which is huge because there's a lot of gems out there. And so she can probably tell pretty quickly if someone goes there or not, you know, whether they're a liar or not. All right, so we hop over here to Rasputin's agent. Rasputin's agent's been watching this, you know. She sees the Empress, you know, loading up tons of funds, but Rasputin's agent doesn't have a whole lot of money right now to speak of, just 3, and so she really has to be mistaken as being Anastasia. She saw that player 5 did something weird by trading a card with Empress, so that kind of tipped her off that something might be there, but then player 1 spent a lot of time, you know, trying to investigate that, and player 5 got really wealthy from it. So it might not actually be player 5, it might be player 1 who was trying to point out that player 5 is a liar. And we don't know anything about player 1. So Rasputin's agent is going to hedge on that and say, player 1, you know, we don't know anything about you. What's your location? Right? Trying to point out maybe Agra, India. Let's see. Let's just see anything else. Actually, no. Since Fabergé egg has 2 gems on it, and she has Fabergé egg, she can try and trap her. So, yeah, Rasputin's agent's going to say, player 1, what trinket did you bring with you from the homeland, right? And if you remember, player 1 only has hid, and so she's free to lie at this time, or fib, if you will. And so she's going to say, oh, you know, thinking that she needs to help, I have the Fabergé egg. And so she'll put that there. Hold on. The joys of Tabletop Simulator here. I'm just going to grab one at a time. There you go. All right. So then, Rasputin's agent, as a counteraction, you can only do this once per game, is you can reveal one of your cards. Oh, this wouldn't be good, though. Because if you do this, it proves that you are not Anastasia, and Rasputin's agent doesn't want to do that. But she could have revealed Fabergé egg to then prove that player 1 is in fact not Anastasia. But of course, Rasputin's agent wants to be confused for being Anastasia. And so she's actually not going to do that. She now knows, however, that player 1 is not Anastasia because of that. And so now she really has it down to 2 players. It's either player 5 or player 3. And that is her turn. No, I'm sorry. That was the first action. Second action is, let's see. She's trying to look for more information. Since the trading happened after trinkets, location and story could be different. So she is going to try and trade a story with player 5, right? Try and investigate a little bit more. And so she gets a gem for that. And player 5 now has to reveal the story. And so that is hugely telling at this point. And so Rasputin's agent now has enough information to probably figure out it's player 5 is Anastasia. Because of the fact that, oh look, she was released. She said she was released. That's very interesting. And so she, at this point, may very well be able to figure out, okay, yep, player 5 is indeed Anastasia. Now, there's a little bit of hedge there, but it's probably enough to give you that extra edge. All right, Gossip's turn. Gossip's turn saw that now player 2 traded with player 5, which means player... Is it 5? Player 5, pink player, actually has 2 cards. Now one from the Empress and one from the green player, right? And so because of that, it's like, well, that's interesting. And player 1 has asked a lot of questions there. And so really, there's a pretty good chance that something's up with pink player, but you don't really know at this point. Plus, you only have 4 gems. So she's trying to find a way to get another gem, maybe reveal another role, hard to say. So she is going to go ahead and ask a question. Since pink player is already out there, player 2, we don't know a whole lot about. White player, we don't know a whole lot about. What cards does she have? She has story. Okay, well, that's interesting. So green doesn't have a story out there yet. She knows that pink player and white player have answered cards that she doesn't have, but she has 2 of the 5 stories. So if she was going to trap someone to figure out whether they are or aren't Anastasia, this is when she would do it. So she looks at player 2, green player there, and says, player 2, what's your story? And then player 2, I don't think player 2 has a story, right? Oh, player 2 does. Player 2 has released. And so this is going to be somewhat telling as well, because now player 2 has to answer, well, I was released. And so this is going to go here, right? So you have 2 tokens now on the same location. So this is the collision I was talking about before, where now one of them is fibbing. We're not sure who. The answer is neither of them are fibbing. It's just that was the card they happened to trade, which is maybe enough information to tell everyone, well, that was the card they traded. So, pink player now has a different story. So that might be something you want to look into. So with that, we seed the board again. Location gets another gem. Trinket gets another gem. What the Gossip was really hoping for is negotiated or smuggled, because then she could trick someone, right? She could say, aha, you are not. You were not Anastasia. So that was that action. Now they get a second action. They only have 4 gems, so they really need something to give them that 1 extra gem. Or 3 if they really want to reveal themselves, which they can. And so they're going to go with the cheapest, right? Or the most beneficial of them, which is +2. Choose another player to gain 1 gem. They must show you one of their clues. So she's going to go with... Oh, I don't know. Let's go with, just to verify, maybe that's what she wants to do. She wants to see if... Well, she already has 5. So she's going to go with pink to see if pink can tell her if green is lying. So they gave her 1 clue for that top option. They choose another player, they gain 1 gem, and they must show you one of their clues. So Anastasia... I don't know why it's doing that. That's weird. There we go. Anastasia is going to reveal, boom, I am from Paris. And so with that, Gossip's like, well, that's interesting. Okay, so she's from Paris, which she did say she was. But that didn't tell me this. I was hoping for this answer. So it could be she traded it away and she didn't want to be, you know, sound any alarms. I'm not really sure. All right, so then it goes to Anastasia's turn, pink player. Anastasia now has ran away and Paris and a no clue. So at this point, Anastasia's going to go ahead and ask someone, oh, I don't know. We're going to say, we're going to say green player. So green player, you know, she's been picked on by green player at this point. Green player, what's your location? You know, trying to trick her into revealing some sort of information. Green player has a story and a trinket at this point and a no clue. So she's free to lie. Green player's like, oh man, if I could just have these 3, I could reveal myself. So she's going to point this out and say, I'm from Agra, India. Taking these gems, putting that there. So she now has enough to self-reveal and then select someone to be Anastasia and out them. At this point, the Empress... Actually, maybe the Empress doesn't want to do this. Yeah, so the Empress could reveal that this was a lie. She could reveal Agra, India and say, listen, this person's lying. However, if this is not Rasputin, she could be giving more information to Rasputin, narrowing it down to just the 3 people. So she chooses not to reveal at this point. Okay, so that was the first question. Second question now second action now is same thing she did before. So she is going to flip over Paris, France, and trade it with the Empress. The Empress needs to provide a location back, so she's going to give her Agra, India. That's so weird. There we go. All right. So now Anastasia has Agra, India. She was able to swap a card, and so she gets a gem for that. All right. That was Anastasia's turn. So now it goes on to white player's turn, player 1. Player 1 looks at their cards. They've seen a lot of weird stuff going on, a lot of trading cards. They're not really sure what's going on. They need to try and help the Empress in any way they can. Empress has plenty of gems. What she is starving for is information. Since the family friend goes right before the Empress, there's a chance that she can do something to help her out. She's got 5 gems, so she could reveal someone outright. She's not really sure at this point. It's getting late in the game. Everyone nearly has 3 pawns out there, which kind of tells what clues everyone has. And so she's really looking at her options here, and she goes, okay, well, I have reveal another player's, ask another question. So she's going to say, okay, I've got those 3, I've got those 3. Really, I'm the only one that doesn't have the 3rd one out there. It probably doesn't matter. Empress, where do you da-da-da-da-da? It doesn't actually matter. Empress is actually going to say Paris, France, because that was the card she just got. What's really interesting here is no one really cares what the Empress is doing, but family friends signal that she's trying to help her out by giving her gems. So then it goes on to the next action. She gets a second action. What does she do? She's going to go ahead. She has the 5 gems. Now's the time. When she was asking the pink player some questions, things were checking out there. And so there's a pretty good chance that it is the pink player. She knows this. And so she's actually going to spend the 5 gems to reveal the pink player, which is Anastasia. Because of that, family friend wins because you won and revealed who Anastasia is. The Anastasia also wins because of this. So these two win together. Gossip was never able to announce her allegiance. She was on the verge of the cusp. One more round and she would have been able to announce allegiance. You also had Rasputin's agent. Unfortunately, Rasputin's agent loses because Anastasia won. And the Empress ultimately was not able to reveal Anastasia first despite all of her wealth. So thematically, she won. She got to meet Anastasia, but it took quite a bit of effort to get there. And so really the family friend and Anastasia are the ones who revel in their victory together. So that was Finding Anastasia. You can kind of see how the roles, bounce off of each other, and it really comes down to being able to produce the information, deduce it together. A little bit of body language, a lot of role playing and kind of table talking, if you will. Oh, I'm certainly Anastasia. So I hope you do as well. Please feel free to back. Kickstarter starts February 23rd, goes for 20 days. All right, thanks everyone. Bye.